Hello, Campbell Hill families. Miss Shimizu here. Last week, I encouraged you and your child to create a wheel of choice for those difficult situations. I hope that you found time to do that and to start practicing using that wheel of choice. Remember, the wheel of choice is to help your child make different choices that would be more helpful in those challenging situations. During making the wheel of choice, you might have seen some new strategies that your child uses at school that you may not have seen at home before. Those strategies might include the I feel statement, bugs and wishes, the mood meter, or other strategies. And we'll get more into those strategies next week. But today, we are going to talk about feelings. And I'm going to share a way for you and your child to practice sharing your feelings this week. Two of the characteristics I've heard parents wish for their children are to have emotional honesty and emotional regulation. We hope that our children will be connected to their feelings, but we also hope that our children will be able to regulate those emotions for the appropriate time and space. This is a skill and it can be taught. The first step to developing emotional regulation is being able to name all the different emotions that we have. Typically, a young child will use the same words, sad, mad, or happy, because they do not yet possess the synonyms required to describe in more detail. At Campbell Hill, we help your children develop that vocabulary. Also, typically, when talking about emotions, a child might say, well, I felt like you, because they're still having trouble naming that emotion. This is a statement about what happened, not a name for an emotion. Feelings and emotions describe something that is going on inside of us, and it is information about us, not about somebody else. Feelings and emotions are not judgments or statements. They are not good or bad, and actually they aren't always logical. At Campbell Hill, we start by working with students to help them name their emotions. Using a feeling chart, creating a feeling book, or even reading books that name feelings outside of sad, mad, and happy. This helps your child start to develop that emotional vocabulary needed in order to be honest and connected to their emotions. The next step is for the student to practice identifying where in their body they are feeling that strong feeling. For example, when I get frustrated, my heart starts to race and my face gets hot. But when I get furious, my fists clench together and my eyebrows furrow, and I can feel my body kind of collapse in on itself. That's two different feelings from two different places inside of my body. This is important because we tell children that these physical feelings are signals that help us know when we need to stop and regulate. Having the vocabulary is only half the work. We find that children need time to practice talking about those feelings for them to fully internalize the process. This is the hardest part for adults because most of us were not taught to express our feelings. It's part of our society. You don't share those private moments with other people. I know, growing up in the South, I was taught that we don't air our dirty laundry in public. This means that I was to never show any sort of big emotion outside of happiness to anybody other than my mother or my father. There are a lot of other messages that you might have been raised with. Real men don't cry, or showing them how you feel is letting them win, or sometimes your big feelings were labeled as being dramatic. This makes expressing our feelings just as hard. I encourage you to practice this work with your child this week. It might feel weird at first, but with practice, it will become more natural. By helping your child name their feelings, you are teaching them how to take control of those emotions instead of letting them take control of you. This is called emotional regulation. You are helping them learn to act upon the feelings instead of reacting to the feelings. For example, a child who is angry about something that happened at school comes home and yells at his brother and calls him a name. He has reacted to this angry feeling. When he is finished, he might feel like he now has something else to apologize for by calling his brother a name. Usually, our reactions to our feelings only make the situation bigger. But a child who acts on their emotions is able to name that feeling and then make a choice how to handle it appropriately. He might come home and use his calm down space. He might write in his journal. He might draw an angry picture or write a letter. When he is finished, he might feel empowered to address the situation from a problem-solving way instead of from a reacting to my emotions way. To practice talking about feelings at school, we encourage students to use this statement. I feel blank because blank, and I wish blank. It might sound like this. I feel alienated because I can't play with my sister, and I wish we could hang out more. Or, I feel frustrated because my tower was knocked over, and I wish it was still standing. You can hear that these statements are very clear about what is happening on the inside for that child. There is no blame or judgment being passed around. Those listening to the child's feelings are practicing receiving the feelings without passing judgment, criticizing, trying to fix, or defend themselves. Emotional honesty is a two-way street. It's important for you and your child to be able to share their feelings, but it's just as important for you and your child to be able to hear someone else's feelings without judging them. This week, I encourage you to practice naming those feelings. The safest place for us to be vulnerable is usually within our own family. Next week, I will give you some specific strategies to provide a consistent space for your family to share those feelings. So be sure to come back next week. Until then.